Next call for Christopher Hitchens, who was born in Portsmouth, England in 1949, Buffalo, New York.
Yes, I have two statements, and I think the reason you have trouble with your belief system, Christopher, is because you didn't get a chance to form one as when you were young. You got sent to a boarding school, apparently, and so you didn't really have a belief system. I remember being 8, and I wondered how a lady could have a baby. It was a movie, and without a doctor. And I thought the people in the movie were lying to me because it couldn't happen. There was no doctor there. I had no understanding of it, so therefore it seemed a lie. But I tell you, faith comes from experience. The people are not reading things and believing it. It comes from experience. I saw my mother pray, so that's where I learned it from. I saw her pray every night, kneeling, until she got too old to get up. Then she would kneel in bed. Then I had to try it for myself because I got so sick and I couldn't get well. And I finally did get well. It was a mental thing, and I finally recovered. And it took some months to do it, or a lot of long weeks, but I just woke up one day and I was well. But my real shown-up belief in God came when I had an instantaneous healing. I was at home alone, sick again, and I just prayed and asked God to come sit beside me and help me, and it was to Jesus. And I felt the heat like they always explain it was, come over me. And I mean, it was momentarily. I was sick one minute and well the next, and I just got up and went to sleep, and the next day I went to work. I was totally, instantaneously healed. Black people have to believe in God, or else we'd still be in slavery. There is a God. You just don't know. And if you want to know if it's true, put it to the test. Try it. Pray sometime and see if anything happens. It's happened enough for me that I can't have a doubt. And the same is with psychic phenomena. If something has happened to you, a thing happens, and then it comes to pass. You dream a thing, and it comes to pass more than once. It has to be a fact. It can't be a lie.
Thank you, caller. No response?
No, I take it as a comment.
Have you ever prayed?
No.
What do you say to...
No, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. I mean, one was forced to pray several times a day, but some of the things you had to say aloud. The Nicene Creed, for example, or sometimes the Apostles' Creed, and the Lord's Prayer, and so forth. So yeah, I've intoned that, yes. And then I discovered that they can make you come to church, but they can't actually make you pray. You don't have to do that. And I stopped. I stopped singing the hymns, and I wouldn't kneel or bend forward when it was prayer time. And there was nothing they could do about that, because the law only says you have to go. It doesn't say you've got to believe.
In the New Yorker profile...
But I would feel ashamed of myself if I did pray, because that is what solipsism, I'm afraid that's what the lady was suffering from there too, for all her obvious, sweet and genuine character. She thinks the world is all about her, and that Jesus is listening in case she has anything to say. It sounds so modest, doesn't it? So humble. It's an incredibly arrogant claim, as well as an absolutely ludicrous one. If people got well by praying, ma'am, I suppose I have to say this to you, we wouldn't be in the case that we are, with so many people desperately sick.
Why do you think...
Beyond the reach even of the skilled medicine, which is the only hope of a cure. It is not that. That is not how people get better. It's,
Why do you think then that over 1 billion people on this earth think there's some kind of a higher power?
I don't know that they do, but I think that the reason would be, let's grant that they really do believe this, and give them credit for sincerity in the belief. My analysis in my book is this: we are pattern-seeking animals. It's a good thing about us that we look for patterns, we look for recurrences and consistencies and so forth. And it's a weakness as well as a strength, because for example, we prefer a conspiracy theory to no theory at all, but we do look for patterns, and it's quite difficult for us to imagine that we don't know the cause of things, or the first cause. We'd like to think we could find that out. And we also have, it's very persuaded us that things are all about us, and that we're the object of all this. So if people say, well, look, the stars move in a predictable way, the seasons move in a predictable way, there must be some system here. It must mean something. It must have been started by someone. Now, as you know, all of these are completely unwarrantable assumptions, but the counterintuitive is the problem with the truth of it. And not only that, but I might be the winner in this destiny, and it might be all about me, and my God might turn out even to be the strongest one. So.
If there was a word adeist, it would describe me probably rather better than the vulgar word atheist does. I don't have a special word for saying why I don't believe in Santa Claus, for example, or why I don't believe in the tooth fairy. I don't believe there is a supernatural dimension, and I don't believe there have ever been any miracles, so I don't believe that prayers are answered. I don't believe any of this. None of this comes up so far in this argument. I'm not arguing with a religious person yet at all. I'm arguing with someone who claims to know more than I do about physics and biology. It's possible that he does. Many, many people do. But bear in mind that we cannot say that we know that there was not a prime mover. It's not within our compass. Pitifully ignorant as we are, only scrabbling on the lower slopes of the study of physics, as all of us are, even the best, we may not say that we know there was no prime mover. We may not say that. We can say that all the laws appear to operate without that assumption. It's very, very, very rare indeed to meet a physicist of any standing, from Einstein onwards, who is not at the most a Spinozist. In other words, someone who might say there could be a pantheism somewhere, there could be a force, but there is no way you can take a step from the laws of physics, the observable creation of the cosmos, that leads you to the belief that there is an intervening personal God who does answer prayers, who does watch over you, who does notice what you're up to, who does mind what you do, who you sleep with and in what position, what you eat and on what days of the week, what propitiations and sacrifices you will make, what commandments you will observe. There is no possible way, no one's even tried it, of getting from the laws of physics or biology to any such idea. So from the person who says, I'm a deist, I don't think all of this can be an accident, there must be some cosmic force, I say, I can't disprove it, though I think the cosmos functions without it, but you have all your work, sir, or ma'am, still ahead of you before you can say that Jesus of Nazareth was a real person, let alone that he was the Son of God, let alone that his mother was a virgin, let alone that he was resurrected. None of these things, by the way, would prove he was the Son of God, if they did happen. Nor would they prove that his doctrines were not erroneous. A resurrected person who was the son of a virgin could still be talking nonsense. There's no logic that says he must be right. If I'm having an argument with you, sir, and you say, you lose, boy chick, I say, how come? Because my mother never went to bed with another man. Your logic is faulty. I think my case could remain just as strong as ever it was. In default of that, I must say, rather bizarre intervention. Now, why do we have religion in the first place? Why are we having this discussion? Why does Frank feel the need to talk in this way? Because we are pattern-seeking mammals. It's part of our evolution. We look for patterns. We're designed to look for them. And if we can't find a good explanation, we'll come up with a bad one, rather than none at all. Most people would rather have a conspiracy theory than no theory. It's very observable that. There's a lot of junk science around before good science arrives. Before we have astronomy, we have astrology. Before we have chemistry, we have alchemy. All of these things are derivatives of religion, because in a very sinister verse of the Bible that used to upset me when I was being forced to listen to it as a little boy, it says, seek and ye shall find. Yes, that's exactly right. Seek and you will find. Seek for an explanation of volcanic eruptions when you're living in a primitive society, and you will think they're probably a visitation from an angry deity. And if you're told you can postpone the next eruption by throwing a few live babies into the lava down the crater, that's what you'll do. Religion has just started. Religion has just begun. Why do some people get the plague and others not? Because they're sinful. Where's the plague coming from in the first place? It's a punishment from God, and or, in early Christian society, the Jews have poisoned the wells. So we'll go and get them. Again. Because we already hate them because they killed our Redeemer. They committed deicide. All of them did. All of them. No one's exempt. Indeed, if you have to be a Christian, it's an article of their faith that we were all present at Calvary. We all drove in the nails. The Jews particularly so. And we all have to expiate this guilt for a crime that may or may not have been committed, but if it was committed before we were born. What is this? It's not physics. Okay? It's not biology. It's not science. It's faith. Why don't you fly under your true flag, sir? Why don't you say These things must be believed as articles of faith. Don't try and derive it from science.
So, where I think we're in agreement is that we're seeking for a kind of tolerant humanism that can respect certain kinds of diversity, not any kind of diversity, but seriously grounded diversity and difference. And I see the foundation of that as provided by respect for individuals as autonomous centers of created life, if you like. And I suppose my question most basically
Excuse me, did you say autonomous centers of created life?
Created life, yeah. Which is also itself part of an ongoing creation, I think. But I suppose my question, very simply, to Christopher would be this. What does he think grounds the values of human dignity, respect, human value, and so on, if not the kind of theological foundation that I suggested?
Well, first I think a fairly unsentimental realism, which would consist at the minimum of a recognition that we're not created, that we are evolved, and that we are in fact identifiable members of a primate species with kinship with other animals. Some people don't like to believe this, or think it would be unpleasant if it was true, but it just is. So we may as well deal with that. I am generally tolerant. I love to teach arguments. I like to take part in arguments, but in this case there is no argument about creationism versus evolution. It's over. It's been over since a debate at the Natural History Museum in this university in the mid-19th century. The basis further for our morality, why is it that we think of others? Why do we care for them? I think is equally simple, if you like. Just as religion is preached to the simple and doesn't require a great superstructure of theology, the principles are essentially, I would even say, simplistic, but we have such a thing as human solidarity. If we didn't have it, we wouldn't have got this far. The usual statement of the moral, the nearest statement we can make of the moral absolute, the best approximation we've come up with is what's called the Golden Rule. It's variously stated, but it's usually rendered as something like, don't do to others what you would not wish them to do to you. This, of course, makes it difficult to pass judgment on people like Charles Manson or Adolf Hitler. It's open to the charge that it's only as good as the person making it. That's why I have a difficulty with the idea of moral absolutes, but it's a pretty good approximation. There's no society ever been discovered that doesn't have some such principle. If you tell me that my grandmother's Jewish ancestors got as far as Sinai not knowing that murder and theft and perjury were bad, and only then found out, I will say to you, they wouldn't have got that far if they'd been under another impression. There has been no revelation of this. It doesn't come from on high. It's innate. It's one of the things that makes up for being a primate. There are some people who don't have it, but we call them psychopathic. And we have to reason it. If Jesus and Muhammad and Abraham and Moses had never been born, which in any case I tend to doubt, or if all the stories told about them were untrue, if that was suddenly to be found and everyone had to admit it, some people I know would go into a panic. Now what will we do? We have no morals suddenly. What could be more nonsensical than that? As a matter of fact, the position we occupy would be precisely the same as it is now. If none of these texts had ever been written, if none of these supposed utterances had ever been made, we would still have to reason together about how to treat one another, about how to build a just city, and about how to have irony and a sense of humor. So that's my answer. And I think the idea that there's a supernatural dictatorship required for us to think about our duties and responsibilities to each other is the most sinister idea ever invented. These questions cannot be referred up to a celestial dear leader. We do not live and do not wish to live, fortunately in any case don't have to live, in a divine North Korea. Thank you.